My name is Jackie Streat and I'm a partner at Levene. We are chartered certified accountants and we're based in Warren Street. So I head up the barrister unit at Levene, where we look after the accounts, VAT and tax affairs of over 2,000 barrister clients. So I'm here today to talk to you about two main areas. First area is how you can finance the path to achieving a career at the bar. And the second area is I will be looking at your tax and filing obligations coming your way once you start your pupillage at Chambers. Okay. So I'm sure you're all aware, career at the bar, it offers significant benefits. It's got the potential to be exciting, it's well respected, it's lucrative, and of course it's intellectually stimulating. But the road to becoming a barrister is notoriously tough. And of course, it's an expensive one. So, what are you up against financially? Right? Well, firstly, there's your undergraduate degree. Universities can charge up to £9,250 per year. And then on top of that, there are your cost of living expenses. Next, there is your law conversion course. So, if you have undertaken a non-law degree, you will need to study for a postgraduate diploma in law. And fees for this go up to £13,000 for courses in London. And finally, and not least, there are your bar course fees. Now, bar course fees, these range from about £12,000 to £20,000, with courses in London being more expensive. And of course, you still have to pay for your cost of living expenses. Be aware, when you're looking at your different bar course providers, that different universities, they vary not only in fees, but also in the type of tuition on offer. For example, contact time with tutors, the materials that they provide, and of course the learning styles they cater for. So compare your course providers carefully before making a decision. In addition, some course providers or law schools provide the option of dividing your bar course into two parts, with part two, the latter part, being more expensive than part one. So if you are unfortunate enough not to pass part one, you are not tied in to paying the full course fees. Okay, this can really reduce some of your financial risk. For example, the ICCA bar course costs just under £16,000, but part one is just under £4,000, and part two is about £12,000. Okay. So, what sources of finance are available to you? Well, the main source of finance will be scholarships and bursaries from the Four Inns of Court. They provide scholarships totalling £6 million a year, which is quite significant, and I'm going to discuss this in more detail later on in the talk. Other forms of finance. You may have savings that you can use towards your bar course. But in my experience, I found that students are more likely to owe money than have savings. You may have support from your family to help pay for your bar course fees. Then there is the Student Loans Company. The Student Loan Company provides postgraduate funding for master's courses. So if you choose a bar course that is combined with a master's qualification, you will be able to apply for postgraduate funding from the Student Loans Company. Maximum funding is just over £12,000 and can be used for both your course fees and your living expenses. You may obtain a postgraduate loan from a high street bank. Loans, they vary from between £1,000 to £15,000, but they are subject to a suitability assessment. Also be aware that you will be paying interest at the commercial rate on the loan, so you will need to repay not only the capital element of the loan, but also the interest. There are also private student loan providers, like Lendwise. Now, the size of their loans varies considerably, but they are basically assessed on your future earnings potential and, of course, your credit score. Again, you will be paying interest on the loan, and I would advise that you apply for such a loan at least 6 months prior to starting your graduate course. The law schools themselves, they provide a number of awards, but these are often limited to students who are exceptional or to students who cannot otherwise afford the course fees. Next, there are Pupillage Award advances. So, if you manage to secure pupillage at chambers whilst you're actually doing your bar course, well, some chambers, they allow you to draw down on that pupillage award prior to actually starting chambers. So you can use that to help finance your bar course fees. But be aware with these drawdowns. Whenever you draw down, will be taken out of the award that you would have received in your first year at pupillage. Also, depending on the structure of the pupillage award, some of this drawdown may be taxable. There are some charities that offer financial support, but these are quite rare. If you want to go down this route, I would suggest that you speak to a local education authority awards officer to discuss this further. And finally, there's the Bar Council themselves. So every year, they run an annual law reform essay competition. This has prize money totaling up to 10k, which is quite substantial, and it's opening to anyone who's going for a law degree, GDL, bar course, and even those currently seeking pupillage. Be aware, all the information I'm talking about today, it's all publicly available on the internet. So please, if you want to do your research afterwards, it's very easy to look up. So coming back to the main source of funding, scholarships and bursaries from the 4 Inns of Court. As I'm sure you're all aware, they comprise Lincoln's Inn, Inner Temple, Middle Temple, and Gray's Inn. As I said before, the scholarship awards total in excess of £6 million per year, and they're aimed at covering you for your law conversion course, your GDL, your bar course, and indeed part of your pupillage. The grant may also include subsidised housing arrangements. So, how does the scholarship application work? Well, you can only make one application to one inn. So, do your homework, focus on the inn that's likely to give you the best chance of success. You don't actually have to be a member of an inn to apply for an award, but you do need to be a member to receive the award. Okay. So, what are the inns looking for? Well, they're all looking for the same thing. Firstly, intellectual ability. They will be looking for evidence of excellence at your performance at university. They will be looking for excellent legal research skills. They will be looking at your motivation and your evidence of your serious commitment to succeed at the bar. They'll be looking at your potential as an advocate, your oral skills, such as muting, debating, mock trials. Then they'll look at your personal qualities, your reliability, your independence of mind, your leadership skills, and of course, your integrity. And finally, they will look at your financial circumstances. All scholarships are means tested. So looking at each inn individually, we'll start with Lincoln's Inn. Lincoln's Inn, they have funding of about 1.8 million, with 1.6 being directed at bar course scholars and about 200k aimed at GDL scholars. There are about 100 scholarships in total that vary from between 6k to 21k. All scholarships are awarded on merit, but the amount that you receive is means tested. Okay. The inn also has a number of student flats available for bar course scholars studying in London, but the rent for the accommodation will be taken directly from your scholarship award. So what is the application process? Well, you'd firstly need to make a written application. Then if that is successful, you will be invited into a panel interview. It's very exciting. So, no award, I'm afraid, is made without an interview first. The closing dates for the bar course are the beginning of November in the year prior to commencing your bar course. Closing date for GDL, beginning of May in the year prior to commencing your GDL. So do make sure that your application, as well as any necessary references, are provided prior to the closing dates. Okay. Inner Temple. Inner Temple is the inn with the largest award budget, about 1.9 million. This is broken down 1.7. It's directed at bar course scholars and about 200,000 to GDL scholars. Again, the scholarships, they vary in size, about 100 awards in total, with the largest being about 20k. Inner Temple is the only inn to guarantee a GDL scholarship winner an award of at least equal value for their bar course without further interview. Okay. Again, the application is very simple to Lincoln. Middle Temple, funding of about 1.3 million, with 1.1 being directed at bar course scholars. And then lastly, there is Gray's Inn. The thing about Gray's Inn is they have fewer awards, but they are larger in value. Okay. They also have residential scholarships. They provide about 19 scholars with free accommodation within the inn's estate. Okay. So I'm now coming to the end of the first part of the course. I want to leave you just with one further thought. So the rewards, as you know, they can be great for those who succeed at the bar. But the path to becoming a barrister is extremely expensive and very high risk. There is no guarantee of you becoming a barrister at the end of it. So before you enroll on a bar course and saddle yourself with all this debt, do take a reality check, about your own skills and potential. Do you have what it takes to beat the odds and succeed at the bar? And I'm sure you all do, okay? And you'll all go on to win that place at Chambers. That point, please come and find me, I'm now going to talk to you, I'm going to roll you forward. So you've won your place at Chambers, you've started your first 6, you are enjoying your very exciting barrister career. So what do you need to be thinking about tax-wise? HMRC will deem that you have commenced your self-employment trade from the start of your second 6. Regardless of this, you will need to formally register for self-employment by completing something called a CWF1 form. Once you are self-employed, what does this mean? Well, it means that you will need to start filing annual tax returns to HMRC, and you will become liable to 4 different types of taxes. What are the 4 taxes? First one is a very simple tax called Class 2 NIC. Class 2 NIC is a flat rate, £3.45 per week. It's payable all on one go with your annual tax returns. But please be aware, with the new budget, the government have just slashed NIC Class 2 from April 24. Second and third taxes. Income tax, which I'm sure you've already heard of, and Class 4 national insurance. So all I'm going to say about these taxes at the moment is that they are directly dependent on your self-employment profits. The higher your profits, higher your taxes. The lower profits, lower taxes. That is why it is so very important that you gather and amalgamate as many of your business expenses as possible. Because the more expenses you have, the lower your profits and the lower your taxes. And I'm going to explain exactly how those taxes are computed a little later on. But first, let's talk about a tax return. What on earth is a tax return? Tax return is a form that you submit to HMRC wherein you are declaring all your forms of income. Now, your main form of income will be your barrister self-employment income and expenses. But other things that you would declare will be things like interest that you receive on your bank accounts. You may be employed at the same time, and you might have to declare, and you will have to declare, your employment income, even though it was taxed under PAYE. Other things you might declare in your tax return will be things like gift aid payments and pension payments that you may make, because these things will give you money off your tax bill if your marginal rate of income tax is 40% or higher. Okay. A tax return always covers a fiscal year. Fiscal year runs from 6th of April to 5th of April. The return has to be filed by the following 31st of January following the fiscal year, and the taxes associated with a tax return paid by the following of January, following the 31st of January following the fiscal year, and the 31st of July following the fiscal year. So those due dates will become ingrained in your mind as you develop your career. There are fines and penalties if you file late. There are fines and penalties if you pay late. The later you are, the higher the penalties grow. So the main thing that's going to go into your tax returns will be your self-employment income and expenses. So what does this comprise? Firstly, your income. Let's discuss the different components of income. Your pupillage award. Any pupillage award you receive in your first 6 is not taxable and does not need to be declared. Any pupillage award you receive in your second 6 is taxable and you would need to declare it. When it comes to a drawdown, the way to think about the drawdown is, what would I have received in my second 6 had I not taken the drawdown? And you will be taxed on that. Okay, a drawdown is really a form of loan that you are paying back in either your first or second 6 or both. Okay. Other forms of income, fees that you receive from your clients, and indeed any deviling income if you do deviling work for other barristers. Expenses. What is the definition of an expense? An expense is something that is wholly and exclusively for business purposes. So note, I didn't use the word necessarily. So if you've got your eye on that Mont Blanc pen or a Gucci wheelie bag that you want to buy to lug your files around, that's absolutely fine. As long as you are using it for business, we can include it within your accounts and you can get tax relief on it. So I'll start by telling you with what is not an allowable expense. What is not allowable? If you take, for example, a fellow solicitor or a client out for a meal or a drink, this will be deemed to be entertaining. This is not an allowable expense. So what are your typical expenses? How am I doing for time? Okay. Yeah. Okay. What are your typical expenses? Biggest one you're likely to have will be your chambers rent and expenses. You might have a holiday from this initially when you first join chambers, but this will certainly ramp up as your turnover increases. Other forms of expenses, your travel costs. So your travel from chambers to clients and back again, and from chambers to courts and back again, is tax deductible. But your travel from home to chambers, your usual place of work, is not. Again, how you travel is entirely up to you. You want to go somewhere by first class, this is your choice. You will get tax relief on it, okay, as long as the trip is for business purposes. Other types of expenses, subsistence. Subsistence, this is food and drinks whilst outside your normal pattern of trade. So it is not your normal breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's more. If you're out and about, you're going to different courts, seeing different clients, you grab an extra coffee or a snack. It's that sort of thing. Of course, if you have to stay in a hotel overnight because maybe you're going to a remote hearing the next morning, all the hotel costs plus any food and drink at the hotel would be tax deductible. You might want to watch how many bottles of champagne you drink, though. You might have a hard time claiming it's not for entertaining if you do that. Other expenses, your motor costs. So if you use your car for business purposes, we can claim tax relief in 2 different ways. Firstly, there's the simplified scheme, where we put through an allowance of 45p per mile for the first 10,000 miles, 25p per mile thereafter. Alternatively, we can bring in all your motor costs. So your petrol, your repairs, your road tax, insurance, anything you can think of to do with your car. But then we would prorate these expenses for business use. Telephone expenses, cost of your mobile phone, cost of the calls on the mobile phone, cost of your home internet if you use that for business, cost of your home landline if you use that for business purposes. We can bring that in, but again, we would prorate these costs for business use. Other expenses, writing materials, pens, paper, notepads, that sort of thing. Your computer cost, cost of your laptop, desktop, any software, cost of a home printer if you use that for business purposes, toner cartridges, research costs, red book, white book, Archbold, even the Times. If you buy the Times for the law pages, you can bring those in. I won't tell them that you do the puzzles at the back. Subscriptions, these are memberships to professional bodies. So your membership to the Bar Council, your practice certificate costs, data protection, etc. Indemnity insurance costs, we can bring that in. Your accountancy fees, training and CPD costs. With regards court attire, HMRC are quite strict about court attire these days. So strictly speaking, all you can have are collars, cuffs, bands, wig and gown. Okay. I'm afraid there's a world-renowned case called Mallia versus Drummond, where HMRC won their case to disallow dark suits because of duality of purpose. They keep you covered, they keep you warm. You cannot split the business as a personal use element of the suit. And finally, business bank account charges and interest. We can bring those in. Another thing you should know is that you can go back 7 years pre-commencement and we can bring in any capital item that you have purchased. A capital item is something that lasts longer than a year, such as your wig and gown, your computer, a desk or a chair. Okay. So if you have purchased any, your computer now, or you've already purchased your wig and gown prior to starting Chambers, please keep those receipts and we will be able to bring them in to your first set of accounts. So, what do we do with all that information? Well, we take your income, we deduct all your expenses, we come up with a profit figure. It is that profit figure that's then used to cover those two taxes I mentioned, income tax and class 4 NI. So income tax, as I'm sure you already know, first 12,570 forms your tax-free personal allowance. Then your earnings from 12,570 to 50,270, you're taxed at 20%. Then your earnings from 50,270 to 125,140, you're taxed at 40%. Then your earnings above 125,140, you're taxed at 45%. Class 4 NI, first 12,570, you don't pay anything. But then your earnings from 12,570 to 50,270, you pay tax at 9%. This will be reduced to 8% from April 24. Then your earnings above 50,270, you are taxed at 2%. In addition, and I'm so sorry because those taxes are just not enough, okay, there are your student loan repayments to make. Now, you will make student loan repayments together with your taxes. You'll pay it all in one go together to HMRC, and HMRC will pay the student loan element over to the student loans company. So how will your student loan be taken? If you have a plan to type loan, which is taken out after September 2012, you will be paying 9% of your earnings in excess of 27,295. If you also have a postgraduate loan, you will be paying 6% of your earnings in excess of 21,000 to HMRC, along with your tax bill. Okay. I'm now going to talk to you about the last tax. Last tax is called VAT. It's a delightful tax whereby businesses, you, will be gathering a tax for HMRC, which is very kind of you, and as a thank you, you can reclaim the VAT that you pay on your expenses. Yep, you're basically charging VAT on your fees to your clients, bringing it in, paying it over to HMRC, and you can reclaim the VAT you pay on your expenses. So, how does it work? Well, at the end of every month, once you've commenced trade, you are meant to do a test. You look back over the last 12 months, has my turnover exceeded 85,000? The answer is yes, you must register for VAT or VAT within the next 30 days. This is a legal obligation. This is not a choice. Okay? You can, of course, voluntarily register early if you wish, and indeed many chambers insist that you register early. Some chambers may ask you to register from the start of your second six, some from tenancy, others don't get involved at all. Okay. So once you are registered for VAT, what does it mean? Well, it means firstly that you will need to start charging 20% VAT on your fees to your clients. And secondly, that you will need to prepare and submit quarterly VAT returns to HMRC. So what do you put in a VAT return? You would declare the fees that you've received in the quarter. You would declare the VAT that you have gathered on those fees. Then you can also declare the business expenses that you have paid in that quarter and the VAT that you've paid on your business expenses. You then deduct the VAT that you've paid off the VAT that you've brought in from your clients. You pay the difference over to HMRC. You have 1 month and 7 days post the end of each quarter to submit the VAT return and pay the VAT. There are fines and penalties if you file late. There are fines and penalties if you pay late. The penalties grow the later you are. So overall VAT, delightful admin headache, okay, goes on quarter forever, basically. And even more so because of this relatively new legislation called Making Tax Digital that you will need to comply with when you are VAT registered, whereby you will need to store your transactions digitally and you'll need to use MTD compliant software to submit your VAT returns, which costs money. So, cost and admin overhead. But there are benefits to being VAT registered. So now that I've completely slated it, let's talk about the benefits of being VAT registered. Firstly, cash flow. You can reclaim the VAT that you pay on your expenses. Now, if you're paying VAT on your chamber's rent and expenses, this might be quite considerable. Also, there's special rules in your first VAT return. So, for example, you can go back 4 years and reclaim the VAT on any capital item that you have purchased for your business. So please do keep those receipts now. Keep them now for your first VAT return and for your first set of accounts. So there is a cash flow advantage to being VAT registered. Second benefit, if you are, for example, you're not charging VAT because you're not registered to your clients may infer that your turnover falls below 85k. Okay? They may infer that, so they can actually size you up, all right? Which is quite disconcerting, really. I've done that with sort of potential boyfriends of my daughters. Oh, you're not VAT registered, and I'm thinking, oh well, I don't know if they can marry my. Anyway, if you are VAT registered, they won't know what your turnover is, so you automatically look more established. And the other benefit to registering sooner rather than later, I would say, is that you will never make the mistake of going over that VAT threshold, the 85k threshold, and forgetting to register for VAT. Because this can be quite an expensive mistake to make, because you will need to register from the correct time. I've had clients come to me a year down the line and they forgot to register. They need to register at the right time. If it was a year back, it's a year back. Then HMRC will deem that all invoices raised post that date, that VAT was charged, and the VAT will be due to HMRC. So it can be quite an expensive mistake to make. Okay, that is the end of VAT. I am going to leave you with what I call the golden rule. The golden rule. Golden rule, if you take nothing away from this except this one golden rule. In order to cope with the self-assessment regime, it is very, very important that you put money aside as you go along. Okay, and I would advise that once you do commence your self-employment trade, that you set up a separate account. Yeah, find the best account with the highest rate of interest you possibly can, and that you, as you receive your income, including your second sixth pupillage award, that you transfer money across into that account on a regular basis. You can do it weekly, monthly, you can do it with every payment you receive, as long as you do it regularly. And I would advise early days, about 25% of the money you receive, you transfer into that bank account. Try not to touch it. Ring fence it until you're told by your accountant what your tax liability is. Okay. I will leave you then with our first year free offer. We do at Silver Levene, how am I doing? Yeah, 1 minute. We provide pupils with a first year free offer at Silver Levene, whereby we would register you for self-assessment, register you for VAT when you're ready, prepare your first set of accounts and pay your first tax return free of charge. This is subject to 2 criteria. First criteria is you provide your information in a timely manner, and the second is that you are receptive to us continuing to act. Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Lovely. Thanks very much.